Sales are up, but they're not up for the reason that most people think. It's not because the market is bouncing back. It's because sellers, well, they're finally starting to adjust. For months now, we have seen this standoff. Buyers sitting on the sidelines waiting for prices to drop, and sellers hanging on to yesterday's numbers, hoping for a rebound. But something has shifted. Prices, they've been easing, and some sellers, they're getting more realistic. And that gap between what buyers are willing to pay and what sellers are asking, it's starting to close. Now, have we hit the bottom? Well, honestly, nobody really knows until we see it in the rearview mirror. But it does feel like things are moving. Yes, slowly and cautiously, but they are definitely moving. So if you're sitting there wondering whether to buy, to sell, or just wait things out, you're definitely not alone. And this update, it's going to give you some added clarity. I'm going to break down what's really driving the numbers, what's behind this shift in behavior, and how to position yourself so that you don't get caught reacting too late. And be sure to stick around until the end, because near the end, I'm going to be sharing with you one number that I'm keeping a very close eye on. And it's not this big headline stat, but it might be the clearest signal of where things are heading next. All right, so let's get into it, and let's start off with these sales numbers because, well, that's what most people are focused on right now. So in October, just over 1,100 homes sold across the Fraser Valley. So that's a decent bump. It's 17% higher than the month before. And that sounds pretty good, right? But here's the part that nobody's actually talking about. Even with that increase, we're still 16% below where we were this same time last year. And compared to what's normal for October, well, we're well under seasonal averages. So yes, sales are technically up, right? But we are not in recovery territory. We're still in a very soft market. And the reason we're seeing any movement at all is because prices are easing. In other words, this isn't about pent-up demand or FOMO. Buyers aren't rushing back in. What's happening is some of them, well, they're recognizing value. And when they see a price that feels reasonable, well, they're acting. But it is selective and it is slow. Now, here's where things start to shift a little bit. You would expect that with prices coming down, more people would start listing their homes. I mean, if you're a seller and you see the numbers are sliding, the instinct should be, let's get it on the market before the prices drop even more. And that would make sense, but that is not what is happening. New listings, they actually dropped 14% from September. And compared to last October, they are down by 7%. Only 3,000 homes came to market last month. That's a pretty tight supply. And at the same time, we've still got just over 10,000 active listings overall. So there is choice out there for buyers. But most of that inventory, well, it's been sitting there for a while now, which tells us that sellers, they are pulling back. Some, they don't like what they are seeing. Some, they're waiting for the spring. And then others, well, they're just hoping for prices to rebound, which, let's be honest, it probably isn't going to happen in the short term. But here's the silver lining. If you're thinking about selling, this slowdown in new listings, well, it actually creates an opening for you. And it creates that opening because, well, you now have less competition and buyers who are active and serious. So if your home is priced right and it shows well, you have a shot of selling it before the holidays without having to fight through a crowded market. And by the way, you're going to want to stick with me because in just a minute, I'm going to share with you one stat that most people, they completely overlook. And it doesn't get much attention, but honestly, it might be the clearest signal that we've got when it comes to where prices are going to be headed next. But first, let's talk about what's actually happening with prices right now. So despite the rise in sales, prices are still heading downward. The composite benchmark price for a typical home in the Fraser Valley, it dropped again in October. It is down almost 1% month over month, and it's now sitting at just under $920,000. Detached homes, they dipped just under $1,412,000. Townhomes, they also slid down to $786,000. And then condos, they dropped again too. They're now just over $506,000. And when you look at the year over year numbers, it's pretty clear. we're down across the board, between 5 and almost 7%, depending on the type of home that you're looking at. So what that tells us is pretty simple. Motivated sellers are the ones driving the market. The ones who are adjusting their prices to reflect the current conditions, well, they're the ones that are making deals happen. Everyone else, well, they're just either chasing last year's prices or they are stuck in that wait and see cycle. Now, technically, we are still in a buyer's market. The sales to active listing ratio in October was 11%. Now, that's up a little bit from September, but it's still below the 12 to 20% range that we would call a balanced market. So yes, buyers, they still have leverage, but they're not walking around throwing out lowball numbers on everything that they see. They're cautious, they are calculated, and they're moving when the numbers make sense and not before. And that's showing up in how long things are taking to sell. Right now, it's taking about 42 days on average for a detached home or a condo to sell. And townhomes, they're moving a little bit quicker. They're at around 37 days. So what we're in is a slow and patient market, one where buyers are looking for value and sellers, they have to be sharp and not so stubborn. So where does that leave you? Well, if you're a buyer, this could be a rare window. You've got room to negotiate, you've got options, and you're not competing with multiple offers like you were just a couple of years ago. But you do still need to be very smart about how you approach it, especially with your financing, your timing, and your conditions. And if that's something you want help navigating, make sure you grab my buyer's negotiation guide. It is a free resource, and it's going to walk you through how to get the best possible deal in this kind of market. It's not just about the price, but all the other things as well that most people, they don't even think to negotiate. Now, if you want a copy, there's a link in the description box below. And listen, if you think that buying a home is straightforward, think again, because most buyers, they don't realize that the system is stacked against them until it's too late. So make sure you watch this next video popping up right now, because it could literally save you tens of thousands of dollars. And of course, if you do have any questions and you want to chat more about your specific situation, feel free to reach out. There is a link in the description box below. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.